Alright, you made it to the third and final video for Chapter 6, and what we're going to start talking about are the social influences, or the social factors that affect consumer buying decisions. Now the three main ones that you see listed here are reference groups, opinion leaders, and family members. Now different types of reference groups are shown on this particular diagram, this slide. Reference groups can be characterized by either direct or indirect. Okay, either direct or indirect. Direct reference groups can also be broken down into primary or secondary. Primary member groups include all the groups with which people interact on a regular basis in an informal way. This is your family, your friends, peers, co-workers, classmates, things like that. People associate with secondary membership groups on a less consistent basis, not very regularly, and it tends to be on a more formal basis. Right? These could be clubs or groups, professional groups that you would be part of, religious organizations, things like that. Indirect reference groups include groups such as different organizations that you would like to join. The book refers to them as aspirational reference groups, things that you would like to be a part of. A non-aspirational reference group is a group that you're actually trying to avoid being identified with. Okay, you don't want to be identified with this particular group. Now, in regards to influences of reference groups, for marketers, from the standpoint of a marketing manager, reference groups have three implications, as you can see on this particular slide. They serve as an information source and potentially can influence the perceptions of different people. They can affect an individual's aspiration levels. And finally, their norms either constrain or stimulate consumer behavior. Opinion leaders are often people who want to try new products first. Tech companies have found that teenagers are key opinion leaders when it comes to the success or the failure of new technologies. Opinion leaders, they lead in a more casual way. A lot of it is face-to-face. Sometimes it can be difficult to locate opinion leaders. Sometimes marketers may try to create their own opinion leaders based upon what it is that they are selling and who they want to have influence in regards to their product and it being sold to other people. On a national level, big scale, companies sometimes use really prominent public figures. They could be professional athletes, they can be celebrities, such as like movie stars, singers. They could be politicians even for this. Okay, so that's all about opinion leaders. Next up is the family. Family is the most important social institution for the majority of consumers in American society. The family also influences values, attitudes, buying behavior, a lot of that. So there are instances where purchase decisions do vary significantly among family members because family members assume a variety of roles in regards to this purchase process, the process of buying something. Now you have initiators, who are the ones who suggest the start of the purchase process. They get things, kind of get the ball rolling a little bit. Influencers are those members of the family whose opinions are valued, especially more so than others. Decision makers are the ones who actually make the decision to buy or to not buy a product. The purchaser is the one who will pay for the product, and the consumer is the one who uses the product. a lot of times marketers will consider children to have the greatest influence over a purchase decision, depending upon what it is, of course. All right, identify and understand the individual factors that affect consumer buying decisions. Some of the individual factors that individual factors or influences that you see here: gender, age, family life cycle, kind of combined there, and then personality, self-concept, and lifestyle. Obviously, gender is going to have a major influence over the buying process and buying decisions. Age and family life cycle can have a significant impact on consumer behavior as well. Just think about different opinions or tastes in clothing. Depending upon your age or what role you play in the family life cycle, opinions about clothing, styles, trends, and all that it varies considerably. That also in regards to things like food, cars, what you like to do in your spare time, things like that all vary significantly depending upon your age and who or what role you play in the family life cycle. Personality, though, that is a much broader concept. That it's a self-concept that combines the ideal self-image and the real self-image, who you really want to be, who you're striving to be, and who you truly are. Consumers, here's a key point though, consumers seldom buy products that jeopardize their self-image. Right, and lastly, a lifestyle is just a mode of living, really, as identified by your activities, your interests, your opinions, things like that. All right, now I just went through this information, so I'm just going to click on these just so you can see what the slides are, but I talked about them on the that individual influences slide, so I'm not going to go over everything once again. And this will bring us to the psychological influences then. Okay, being able to identify and understand the psychological factors that will affect your buying decisions. All right, so we have perception, motivation, learning, and then beliefs and attitudes. What I want you to be aware of with psychological influences is that they're the factors that you and I as consumers use to interact with the world. They are the tools that we use to recognize feelings, gather information, analyze information, formulate our thoughts and our opinions, and then eventually to also take action. All right, this slide, very important, very, very important. Please be aware of these three different perceptions that people can have. All right. Also understand that people cannot perceive every single stimulus in the environment. It's just not possible. So they will use selective exposure, selective distortion, or selective retention to decide which stimuli to notice, which ones to ignore. All right, so as you're looking at these, selective exposure is when, imagine selective exposure kind of as selective listening. It's the same kind of concept. You notice only the stimulus that you want to and you ignore the others. Selective distortion is when you can change the information that you are gathering that is in conflict with what you were taught, what you believe to be true, what you feel is right. And then the last one, selective retention, is kind of like selective memory. Right? This is where consumers remember only the information that supports what they believe. Only the stuff that supports them is the stuff that they will remember. Marketers have to realize how important cues or signals are in a consumer's perception of products. Cues and signals are very, very important. Marketing managers have to identify the important attributes, such as the things that you'll see on this slide. Price, brand names, quality, reliability, all of these things. They have to identify these attributes, then design these signals or cues to communicate them to the consumers. So depending upon what it is that you want to communicate, you have to come up with the most appropriate and effective way of doing that based upon what it is that you're trying to tell them. All right, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is just a method of classifying human needs into 5 different categories, and this is in ascending order. Right. If you notice, what they're saying is the bottom level, the physiological. Please note that it's physiological and not psychological. All right, the physiological needs are your most basic needs, and those need to be filled before you go to the safety needs. Safety needs should be filled before you go to social, social before esteem, and then esteem before your self-actualization. 2 different types of learning, experiential and conceptual. Pretty cut and dry here. Experiential is, you see, experiential is experience is part of that. So you learn based upon an experience, something that you have done, something more hands-on. Conceptual is a concept. It's something that you are learning that is not through an experience, but maybe more so by reading or listening to somebody. The conceptual is like the traditional lecture class. The experiential is more of the hands-on work for a class. So I would know the difference between those two, and then know the difference between these, belief and an attitude. All right. Beliefs and attitudes are both closely linked to values. With this, you can see the definitions right there. Changes in attitudes can be accomplished in 3 major ways: changing beliefs about the brand's attributes, changing the importance of those beliefs, or adding new beliefs. All right, that's the 3 different ways that you can change attitudes about a company, a brand, or a product. And in regards to changing beliefs, sometimes people have neutral or negative beliefs. Sometimes their beliefs are just wrong, and you have to try to turn that into a positive one, which can be very difficult. You can change how important a belief is to somebody, try to alter that to make something even more important or less important to them, or just try to incorporate a whole new belief into the person's mindset as well. This brings us to our final slide, which is video. I would recommend going into the PowerPoint file that is in D2L and use the link to be able to play that video. We are going to be covering Chapter 6 on Friday, so please plan to attend then, and we'll cover Chapter 6 and Chapter 7 then. Bring any questions that you might have. All right, I'll see you soon.